Dondreá Brown. Count the cost. Let's go.
Hey y'all, Dondreá Brown again, back with the Count the Cost podcast. I'm so excited for today because we have a special guest. As you know, we've been growing the channel, growing our audience, and ensuring that we just invite people all across our community, especially people that's making impact in our community. So I'll jump right on in. I want to introduce Miss Latasha. You want to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Latasha Robinson Crump. Thank you for having me.
Not a problem. So we just gonna jump right to it. If you could tell us like the impact that you're making in this community. The Count the Cost podcast is sponsored by Young Money Finance. That's a local nonprofit in Grand Rapids, Michigan, providing youth financial literacy. If you're interested in learning more about them, go to www.ymfgr.org. Again, www.ymfgr.org.
So, I am the founder and executive director of a local nonprofit called Girls Growing to Women. I now serve girls and young women starting from grade 5 all the way through age 26, but I also work with mothers as well. So that is where I get to make my impact at, is serving those students and parents in the schools, through our regular programs, summer camps, and community outreach.
So that's amazing because my daughter, she has just started participating in some of your support and she loves it. It's been really helpful. But if you could kind of tell us like what inspired you to start the organization?
So I would say my vision really came during high school for me.
Okay.
I just kind of noticed some of my peers not coming to school anymore, whether that was because they were teen moms or they decided to drop out or behavior issues.
Right.
So back then I was like, I wonder if they had the same support that I had. Would that be different for them, or would their paths have a different outcome? So in high school is when I first got that thought that I wanted to have like a support group or provide support for girls.
Which is dope to have that thought in high school. That's dope.
It was, and I didn't do anything with it yet, but I observed, I sat on it, because like I knew I was blessed though. I had good grades, captain of the cheerleading team. My mom's my best friend. I got family support everywhere.
Yeah.
So I was just looking around. And I'm like, okay, I wonder. So that just kind of set for a while, and then during college for my undergrad, one of my best friends had a situation. It was kind of drama, and I'm like, you know what? If I had a group for girls, I could help them not deal with this or teach them how to work around that or work through those things.
Right.
And then in 2013, that's literally when I started Girls Growing to Women.
Wow. Wow. So I go back to my high school days. I was definitely getting a lot of trouble. But there was times where we kind of had visions that we wanted to solve problems and things. And it's dope to see your vision, come to life.
Thank you.
If you could tell us some of the challenges, some of the lessons that you've learned along the way of building the nonprofit.
Let's see, challenges and lessons. I don't want to say we don't have any, because we all do, but I'm trying to think like what are some. Well, one, I think being a Black founder, something you can obviously relate to, right?
Yeah.
Just like the fund piece and the restricted fund piece.
Yeah.
I think sometimes we have to work a lot harder than other nonprofits would to get where we are, or to, serve our population the way they deserve to be served. So that's one challenge. Outside of that, I don't know. I mean, capacity, but that also goes back to the funding.
Right. Yeah. I mean, but you also mentioned this, which is real. Like, you've grown up in a space where you've had community, you've had support. I think sometimes we can try to force a lot of, get it out the mud stories.
Right.
Where sometimes we have to, lean on the blessings, the support system, the villages, and say like, that allows us to be resilient. So it's dope that your organization is like a model of what you want other communities to have. Could you talk a little bit about, some impactful relationships or mentorships in your life, and what has that meant for you?
Yeah, there's so many. Obviously, I'll start with my mom. Like I said, that's my best friend.
Shout out, Mom.
Right. She is literally, even to this day, always with me. Like, whether we're pulling carpet up, whether we're moving and packing, or whatever it is, she's right there still. But also my grandfather. He was a pastor for 38 years. until he passed away. But he also fought for women's rights. He did a lot in our community. So for me, that's kind of where the giving and wanting to help others really started for me. Is
And
seeing my
feel free to
grandfather.
shout out names
Yeah.
because
Yep.
we do, you know, public
Right.
plugs to
Okay.
shout out
And
people.
that's Reverend Robertson. So that's where a lot of it started at for me. And then I've been blessed to come across people who actually wanted to help me succeed too.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people, especially in Grand Rapids, talk about, you know, a lot of people are in competition with each other. I've never had that mindset though. To me, there's literally enough room at the top for all of us.
Right,
And
right.
I've met people that were like that too.
Oof.
So that has been very helpful. Theta Fields was one of them. She's an amazing consultant that most people have worked with. And honestly, I learned
Shout
a
out,
lot of
Theta.
I learned a lot of my skills from her. Like I can write grants, I can do everything. And that started from, you know, her teaching me those things. So
That's good.
but it goes to mindset
Yeah.
because everybody has a different mindset. Some people are like, well, I don't want them to take the funding. For me, if it's mine, it's mine. Like, you can't take what's mine.
Okay.
Like, I
Okay. No, that's super dope. I've been talking a lot about mindset to people, especially in the financial world, as we as we think about, you know, scarcity mindset versus abundance. You said something that I think was real, especially my experience coming to Grand Rapids was that kind of like, I wouldn't call it gatekeeper, but it was just really tough to navigate the waters. And I'm sure it's like that in many other spaces and cities.
Right.
Understandable, right? Because especially when you have certain amount of resources, opportunities, etc., like that whole process is tough. But the goal is that we start to break down some of those barriers and walls that we can create as, you know, people in our community that will also allow people in our community to flourish. So continuously diving down this road of, you know, what you do, relationships that have been impactful. Let's shift to some of our teens. I have a few daughters, and I ain't gonna lie to you, I'm learning so much as they're getting older. What tips would you put out there to help them kind of navigate healthy relationships?
So that's a good one. Actually, in the schools and all my programs right now for the last couple months, we have been focusing on healthy relationships. And I'll break it down a little more, but some of the main components we've been focused on are red flags, right? Because we need to identify what those red flags are so that we know when they come that, okay, this doesn't work.
Right.
But we also have been talking about non-negotiables. And I think I love it because I really just learned about non-negotiables probably within like the last 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
So these students are in middle school and high school and they're identifying what those non-negotiables are. So the boundaries, setting boundaries, of course, as well, non-negotiables, red flags, but also confidence is a huge part in relationships too. Because
Facts.
it will also help you identify like what you're going to put up with or what you're not going to put up with, but also knowing yourself and knowing what you want and what you don't want. So that's kind of how we go in and talk about it. Let me tell you, we can never talk about relationships enough. We're like, we can talk about it for 3 weeks. I'm like, what you want to talk about? Relationships? Like,
Facts.
again?
Facts.
But we cover all kind of relationships too. So whether that's intimate, peer, family, work relationships, like just any type of relationship you can think about, we cover.
Which is good, especially thinking about, you know, the last couple years, the pandemic kind of, I would say, put a lot of our young ones in a space where they didn't have the social experimentation that usually
Right.
happens and grow and develop in certain skills. Continuously thinking about red flags and stuff. As parents, how can we support our kids in navigating relationships?
And this is great too. I literally just did, we call them parent to parent workshops where we bring our mothers in and we have our moms in one room, we have our girls in one room, and then we bring them back together. One thing though, I think is tough for parents, not all, but some parents, right, is we want our kids to communicate with us, but are we really open to accepting what they're communicating with us?
Can you say that one more time? Can
Like
you say that one more time?
you want them to talk to you, but are you really willing to hear them and accept what they're saying? I've had some girls say, I want to really be accepted, not like, oh, okay. Like, I don't want them to be deep down and they're like, what is going on? Or I don't like this. I want you to really accept me. So we have to really be open to that. And they're like, well, why won't they come talk to me? Well, can they talk to you? Or and you can't fuss at them about everything every time they come
Right.
to you, or they're not going to want to come.
That's real.
And I get it's not easy, but what I have learned from our workshops alone is that they both want the same thing. They want to be respected, they want to be heard,
Right.
and they want support from each other. So,
Yeah, I've definitely learned, like, so back to what you were saying, and you could probably attest to this. Growing up, the communication dynamic was a little different. There was more of the
Absolutely.
like adult. There was like a hierarchy. So for me personally, I was like, okay, I'm gonna shift,
Right.
and be more liberal and allow my kids to speak more. But I had to go do some work to accept that feedback, because I think the other thing that kind of was like, oh, my kids didn't know how to say it beyond saying it.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
I'd just be like, hold on, who you talking to?
Right. Well, and sometimes I'm like, there's not a right way to say it, just say it. But I also know right there's that etiquette piece, right? Like,
Yeah.
because this is my
Yep.
parent at the same time. So there does need to be respect, but we also need to
Yeah.
express ourselves. And I've battled with, because we also provide therapy for a lot of our members who are interested in it.
Okay.
And I've witnessed some young girls, they didn't have a voice. They were quiet, right?
Yeah.
So now they're getting it out and they're expressing it. Mom is like, wait a minute, this is disrespectful. I don't like it. I'm like, no, wait. This
Right.
is
Right.
what
Right.
has been inside of her for so long, and now it's all coming out.
That's real.
So it's
And it's dope that you're again providing that parent support too, because it's all about the wraparound support. In our organization, we started with kids, and then adults needed support, and now it's like both spaces
It
need
is.
support.
Yeah, because how
So
do you bridge the gap if I only work with the student and not the mom? But
facts.
I'm an advocate for both, and I try to make that clear for the mom and the student. Like
Yeah.
I'm a ride for my student, but also for the
Okay.
mom, right?
All right.
Like this is it's neutral. I want them both to have the best relationship they can get. So
That's real. So shifting to, peer to peer. What are some you talked about red flags, but can you go a little deeper? Like
yeah.
what are red flags that youth should be looking for?
I'll give you some of the red flags that the girls feel are red flags, right? So, for them, it is like untrustworthy, right? Like I tell you something, somebody else knows my business, huge flag. But even support, I love that at this age they're looking at support. Like maybe you're doing this for that friend, but when it comes to me, you're not there at all, and they recognize that, right? So,
Yeah.
those could be flags.
Yeah.
Because it also goes back to what do they say? Like when people want to do something, they make time to do what they really want to do, and it even starts there. So they notice those things.
That's dope.
I even talk to them too about if somebody is talking about your friend, if you don't stop them or you don't walk away, you are just as guilty as that person. So we talk about that too, like.
Okay.
But yeah, so those are some of the flags. It's just kind of watching those people, seeing if they're honest with you, what support they're giving you, and yeah.
Now, do y'all have yellow flags or just red? And
We just talk about red right now. We go straight to red.
that's
But
real. So again, digging a little deeper into, you started your organization, you navigated high school. Like, what motivates you to continue? That was your motivation that started.
Right.
What's your motivation to continue? Like, what do you hope to see from the organization?
um, so my motivation to continue is the impact that I'm seeing.
Yeah.
So whether that's a text from one of the girls that I've served before, telling me how much I've helped them or how much they've grown, or it's those pieces for me that keeps me going and want to continuously do it. Because to see that impact, it means a lot to me. Because like I said, I'm here for the people, for the
Right,
community,
right.
for the population that I serve. What I hope to see is that they really take heed to all these things that a lot of us as adults are just learning, right? So
Right.
then, whether that's the confidence piece, because if your confidence is high, you can succeed in almost every area. It's in the work field, wherever you are, because of your confidence level, like you can succeed. So, and the healthy relationship piece too, right? Because when you are in toxic relationships, it's draining. It's a lot to carry. It's heavy. So you can't succeed in every area like you're supposed to.
Facts,
And a part
yeah.
of Girls Grown Women's mission is to help them identify their full potential. So with all those things in the way, sometimes they might not reach that. So
Right.
my impact is to continue helping them identify that full potential and find out who they are.
Hey.
And
Spitting
literally,
facts.
like when I started, I worked with high school students. It was 14 through 18 high school students. Now I serve fifth graders. I got a group
Yeah.
for graduates up to age 26 and moms. So it's just continuously growing. It's like a full
So
circle.
yeah, so listen, if y'all got some youth out there, specifically girls, or you want to learn more about the organization, we'll definitely include that in the podcast in the comment section, and just go to her website and things like that. Again, we'll send more of that plug toward the end, but she's warming up as she's talking about everything that she's doing. What keeps you balanced? They usually say there's a lot of burnout in nonprofit space. How are you preventing yourself from burning out?
Balance? What is that? No, I'm just kidding.
Facts.
Well, I do a lot, but
Hmm.
I'm also a mother to a 4-year-old, right? And my son comes before any and everything. So making sure he has his time, that creates
Hmm.
that balance for me easily right there. Um, there are some things I still could work on for balance though, because
Yeah,
I eat, breathe, and sleep girls, grown, and women. Like everything is
that's
girls,
real.
grown, and women for me.
Yeah.
It's not something that I do. It's like who I am.
Mm.
So
Hmm.
I am still working on balance, but for me, it's like the self care piece. I'm not gonna miss a hair appointment. I'm not gonna miss a nail appointment. Like that's where I create my balance and my self care too.
That's real. We just had Rebecca in, and she was talking about, self-care,
Hmm.
self-maintenance, how important it is, and especially in, our community in a nonprofit space. And we didn't grow up learning too much about the mental health world and how to navigate it, or just allowing that to be familiar
Yeah,
conversation with us. So it's good that doing those things. And you said a 4-year-old. Tell us about that experience. What
yeah.
does motherhood look like for you?
Motherhood is good. I love it. It's busy though. My son is such a boy. Like his energy does not go down. It just builds. And it's just
That's
like,
real.
whoo. Before I had him, I would watch all the kids. I had all the kids, but now I don't want the kids. I don't want the kids. I don't want, no, I'm good.
Hey, your face shift. Look,
Nope,
forget the
I don't want
kids.
them. We can come over, but no, I don't want all the kids.
That's super
I
real.
love it though. It's a blessing. I really wanted a girl, but like I can't imagine not having my son. So it's
That's
like it
real.
all works out. So
See, for me, I got girls and boys, and I'm
yeah.
like, ooh, okay. They're so different. The
Are your girls more
personalities,
like laid back and chill, or
most of them, except for the one that's in your program.
I love her too. I love her.
She is all the energy, and I think she just encompassed like all the joy. Like you were saying, like motherhood,
Hmm.
parenthood, fatherhood, like to prioritize your kids and have them, at the forefront is a blessing in itself.
It is.
But it also teaches you, like you said, like priorities and things like that, non-negotiables. Like I've learned so much through that position. So like even for my nonprofit, I'm
Hmm.
thankful to be able to start something that my kids can be highly involved in,
Yes.
participate in. So it's things like that um like for me is a non-negotiable. But let's continue to walk down learning more about you, because I think this podcast is really helpful at you know making people more real in spaces. I
Hmm.
remember I was in a space at a grocery store and somebody was like, I've seen you on TV. I'm like, I'm just a regular person, flaws and all things like that, but also enjoying the journey of learning. If you could talk about some of those like life lessons that you're learning.
Yeah, well, first I'll say I definitely agree with you. If I could do everything behind the scenes, I would be completely fine with that.
Facts.
But yeah, so like you said, we are regular people for sure. And like even as I talk about healthy relationships, I always make clear like I am no relationship expert, okay? Like I
That's
still
real.
go through things, I'm still learning things as well. But of course, it just goes to that mindset because it's figuring out what am I going to do to get through this, or
Hmm.
just
Yeah.
making sure that I don't let anything stop me. And that's just what it's about. It's not about being perfect because to me, I can't really connect with my students being perfect. If I'm
Yes.
perfect, like how do they learn to work through things that they're going to go through just like I have or that I do? So I think we just got to be honest and real. Like that's a huge part of this process for me too. Like
Dropping those
I
gems.
don't.
I definitely had to learn and embrace the realness of,
Yeah.
teaching finances, where people are like, okay, show me that you doing what you say. I'm like, that's good. So I'm going to show you where I am now, where I'm planning to go and how I'm getting there, because that transparency is important. Let's continue with life lessons. What are
Hmm.
some other like lessons that you're learning as you're navigating life?
Let's see, and then let's combine it with like the relationship piece.
Or
I'm
not. I
thinking
mean,
not just anything in general.
hmm
What am I learning?
She said, what about?
I
Hold on, what's
learned.
happening?
So I also was a school social worker for 8 years.
Okay.
So just caring about people and serving people is like who I am, is what I do.
Hmm.
But in that process, I also had to learn to like really put me first because it was
Yeah.
so easy for me to be like, I'm okay, I'm fine. Like, but
Yeah.
I want to help this person, help that person. And I finally had to learn like, well, wait a minute. If you
Right.
keep doing that, you're not going to be okay. Or if
Yeah.
you're not good, you can't really help other people. So that's the life lessons that I learned. Just like to really put me first.
That's real.
And that's easy to say for sure, but like, what does that look like? So, I'm a person, like, if you ask me to do something, I might not want to do it. But because of the kind heart that I have, I'm going to do it. But
That's
now I
real.
kind of sit back and it's like, well, wait a minute. I don't want to, and it's okay. I don't have to do that.
Facts.
Actually, I still help, but like it just comes with different boundaries. So, putting myself first and setting boundaries, honestly, which they both align really well with each
That's super
other.
good.
So,
Yeah, so for me, again, we had Rebecca in here and she was talking about secondary trauma, working in nonprofits and how, like you said, you're picking up your, when you say yes, sometimes you don't know what you're saying yes to, but also you pick up some of those things. So it's good that, like you said, you combine relationship, boundaries, and all those other things and add it to life lessons. Um, finances, finances. That's becoming a huge topic in this current culture and world. Like, what are your thoughts on where we are and not to get too political, but just, supporting people financially and helping them navigate financially, because that also can overlap
right,
with relationship too.
right.
So talk to me a little bit about that.
So when you say we, you mean like us, nonprofits? This like what?
Oh, that's a good one.
Okay.
So let's go with like our community.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think there's been growth in
Okay.
that area.
Yeah.
But of course, there's still the struggle, right, for Black and Brown people being served and getting what they deserve and what they should get.
Yeah.
So there's that piece. So I don't know really like where we are on the full spectrum. I think
Right.
it's not as bad as it was, but there's a lot more work to
A
be
lot
done,
more. Yeah.
if that makes sense.
No, that makes perfect sense. What about like let's include relationships. How much does relationships impact finances, do you think?
Oh, I think it impacts it a lot though, because I think also even with the finance piece, whether we're talking loans or whatever it is, sometimes it is who you know.
Okay.
Like
All
that's a
right.
real thing. It
Yeah.
is even,
Yeah.
um, but I think even if you add in like relationships, whether it's from like your family or the things that you've seen, it sets us back because a lot of families don't really demonstrate good finances or talk about it. Where I'm sure your kids are gonna be like completely blessed in that area
They
to
better
have
be.
it.
I mean, but I
They have
think
the skills though,
but
but
I
not a
think
lot
you
of people
mentioned
do.
something that's important too, because like the goal is that we teach our kids these things, but sometimes it's hard to control
It is,
the other things that they're
yeah.
learning, life. I look at my kids now and I can kind of project out like they're getting it, and I'm like, oh, are they ever gonna get it? Or it may even flip.
Right.
But it doesn't stop the motivation, and like you said, with relationships or that social capital, like that impacts money so much. We just did a community listening session, and the dope thing was somebody was like, or I wouldn't say the dope thing, the insightful thing, where I think we can continue to leverage is like they went into a bank and was not able to get a loan, for whatever reason, but they also felt like the person who was trying to, ask them about their history, their income, and all that other stuff wasn't treating them well, right? And I was sitting in the back like, oh, I want to say so much, like, okay, not always tripping things to racism, but
Right.
also like, how do we as community build a relationship with banking partners, community trust, and all this other
Yeah.
stuff. So there were so many things going into my mind, but I think it comes down to what you're saying is like, how do we continue to build healthy relationships, because that social capital is going to be important, whether it's peers, whether it's family, whether it's
Absolutely.
co-workers, financial institutions. So you're definitely onto something, and my daughter is feeling the impact of it. So continue to
Love that.
do your thing. As we start to wrap up a little bit, are there any questions or topics that you're like, it's very interesting, I want to shout out this person, I want to talk about this? Anything hitting you?
Um, Not at the moment, but I mean, shout out to you first for just doing this, but also what you are doing in the community because, like we just talked about, finances is not something that everybody focuses on or deals with. Like, I mean, I'm really just trying to budget, right?
Yeah.
And I get
Yeah.
it. Some people are like trying to survive, so then that creates it, more of a challenge to actually budget or do things. Not knowing though if they budget, it might make survival a little easier, but you got to get to that point first.
Okay. Yeah.
But I guess like what tip do you have for somebody that's really just trying to like start budgeting or
Ooh, oh. So I would say mindset, because typically people go into something because they probably seen it on YouTube. People are probably telling them to do it, social
right.
media trend, etc. But I think rooting yourself in the why will start to give you the passion and motivation, and the confidence to start to pursue it. So if you don't believe budgeting works, or if you don't have a true why, I want to be the last generation to start from scratch. I'm tired of being poor.
Right.
They say robbing Peter to pay Paul. It's going to be very difficult for you to trust the process. Last year, my theme for the year was trust the process, because my focus was on not just developing processes, but also, trusting them. It went into how I built my team. When I was building my team for Young Money Finance, I'm like, just trust it. You're bringing on new people. You're building relationship with them. You don't know how things are going to go, but my mindset had to be shifted on the future as well as the now. So that was really important. But then also being vulnerable. When we start talking about finances and budgeting, you got to start to build the emotional capacity to be open, be in that learning mode of like, I'm about to see and uncover things that's going to may shift my mind, may shift my family, may shift relationships, and that's okay. But I think that's a part of the process. One thing that I'm learning as I'm starting to engage with people who are successful as they define success,
Right.
you can't skip it. It's the same way for everybody. They had to do some self-learning work. They had to apply it, go back and reflect on it, build the confidence, the strength, go back and do that process all over again,
Right.
build their team, all those things. So
Yeah, and see, that's what I love, how they define success. I think, especially just so much today in today's world, whether it's relationships, everybody feels like what works for them has to work for somebody else. And that
Facts.
is like one of my biggest pet peeves, because what works at your house might not work in my house, or what works in your relationship may not work for me. And I think once people understand that a little more, it'll create so much like better relationships. Just everything might be better if people can understand that.
have you seen on social media the what is his name? Ashton, the really big buff dude that dip his face in cold water?
I don't think I.
Oh my, you might see it now because that's the way the algorithm works.
Right.
Like,
Now that you mentioned it, for sure.
but it was this guy who super like fit. He was dipping his face in water. How many years, Bella? It's been a couple years. He's been doing it. I've always seen it. But what has happened now, he's like really trending because his lifestyle, people are starting to critique. Because he has like this little first of all, like 3:45 he wakes up, then he dip his face in some water with lemons, and then like somebody's putting on his shoes, cooking his like it's this lifestyle that some people, kind of hating on. Some
Right.
people like, yeah, I'll never be able to achieve it. But this guy did a video where he was like, stop trying to compare yourself to that lifestyle.
Exactly.
Like that's what works for them.
Literally, yeah. And with social media, I think it just makes it just, I don't know, it creates that even more, like the comparison and people feeling like they're missing out. And I talk to girls about that all the time too. You don't know if that's their real reality. Like, not everybody's going to post the bad, so you're only seeing
Right.
what they want you to have.
That's
So,
real. Yeah, social media. I didn't have social media until about a couple years ago when I started my organization, and I get it now. I see why people take what are those, like social media breaks. And
Yeah, because it can be good, but it can come with so much bad or negativity and judgments. Like, people are so judgmental.
so yeah, that's been really good. The last question I do want to ask, because I think this is important, because I've observed this from your organization, like, what was your thought process or plan for like building your team? Because every time I walk into your space, like y'all like having fun, y'all laughing, y'all get
Yeah.
stuff done. Like, what are some tips for building a team?
So I guess the first thing was making sure it was a safe space, like for everybody. And then a non-judgmental environment. That's huge. So I think in order to have both of those, it comes with fun too, right? Wow. And even when I'm doing curriculum and teaching, I tell them there's moments where it's going to be very, very serious, and there's moments where it can be fun, but you have to have both. I feel like to actually learn and to get something, and even for my staff. And all of my staff have gone through the program too. So I think that kind of sets the tone, so they know, what they had and what they need to introduce. So
That's an investment. Whenever you can provide somebody the support and they're like, I got to stay here.
yeah, they're like, I'm
that's super
back. They like, I need to give to the program that gave so much to me. So that's also what makes me like want to continue doing it. It's like I get to see the impact.
because the girls were growing into what. Okay,
Exactly.
I get
Right,
it.
you see the
Yes. Okay, so we're about to end, and you know how we like to end our podcast. We like to do the Let's Talk Money session. So I got these little Let's Talk Money cards to help normalize having financial conversations. So we'll be giving some away soon. What we'll do is we'll have you pick one card, and then I'll read it, and then we'll both. Oh, she almost the first one, huh? Let's see what
I have
this
my
one
eye on
is.
that one. I don't know what it is, but
Okay, so who is more likely to pay for things using a credit card before cash? Okay. So you can either tell on a family member, tell on yourself. Like, who is more likely to pay for things using a credit card before cash?
I don't know. Do you answer these two, or I just an
Yeah,
answer?
I
Okay. Will you answer?
So I would say credit card before cash. My nephew so my nephew handles the video. He straight pointed to himself. So so I would say me now. Only because like I am good at paying the credit card off now. And it comes with certain benefits and things. Before I would say my nephew, but now what I've had to do is manage my finances differently.
Okay.
So, for example, I got a lot of checking accounts, and they all have different names. It's similar to the envelope method. And what I'll do now is I'll pay for certain purchases on my credit card and then just use that account to pay off the transaction
Right.
within a week or two. So that method came to me when I was talking to people about just credit card uses in general. Because I needed credit cards to build credit and all those other things, or at least that was my approach. But I really wasn't using them like that. And it was like, why don't you just, because you have the discipline to pay it off, so why don't you do it that way? So
Right.
yeah, I would say me now. Yep.
And see, my mind went two ways. The one way was what you just said, but the other way was like, some people are like, I'm gonna save my money. I'm just gonna use this card. But then you don't pay the card, so I don't know. I can see both ways.
Fact. So I think we just showed it, and it goes back to what you were saying, like similar to success, how you define success. That's how you define your financial management. Whatever works for you, whatever allows you to meet your goals, whatever allows you to be successful. Like the road to success is how you're trying to pave it, and there's many different ways you can pave it. As you build confidence, as you build experience, as you build trust, like you'll start to see some of these things. So it's been dope to have you, come and share those same sentiments. And like I always like to end after our Let's Talk Money cards, you get one question to ask me. Okay.
Okay.
I can always say pass, but so far I have not passed on a question. Somebody asked me something crazy. I said, "Oh my goodness." He said I was playing spades. Go back and watch Dr. Shack's question. It was hilarious. But yeah, do you have a question for me?
Let's see. You should have told me I could get you ask you a question. I could have thought about it. Um, if you could change one thing throughout your life, what would it be?
Oh my. Okay. Dang, that's a good one. Whew. I think I would change the amount of funding that we received when we first started out, because
Okay.
we received nothing.
Okay.
Zero, paying out of pocket. I would have at least did what foundation, shout out to, or not foundation, organization, United Way did with me.
Yes,
They
they
blessed us with $21,000, and that helped move our organization in a direction that I couldn't have imagined without having those funds. So we kind of missed out on like a year and a half, 2 years, because the funding that we applied for, we were denied all the way across the board. So it was very good to be able to have some of that funding. So yeah, I would say that. Beyond that, I wouldn't change nothing else, because literally everything that happened to me has built me to be able to support our community. There was a point in my life where I was like, "Why me, God?" I was a PK. Shout out to my dad, Reverend Dr. Johannes Christian. And I would always question, like, why am I going through all these things? A lot of it was just me being a knucklehead, I can be honest. But when I encounter many of our youth and adults, they'll start to share some of their story, and they're surprised about the things that I either have experienced, currently experienced, or have built the resiliency for. So I feel like if I took something away, I think it would take something away. Like, I smile and laugh a lot, and people are like, "Why you always smile and
Right.
laugh?" I'm like, if you would have been through what I've been through,
Right. It's
sometimes you
facts.
gotta wear the testimony on your face.
Yeah.
So that's been really helpful. But yeah, that's what. Yeah.
Okay.
So that was a dope question. Remember, y'all need to continue to tap in. Y'all need to subscribe to our channel. We are going to put Latasha's information on our social media. Make sure y'all tap into her supports. Just if you want to learn more or even ask her questions about relationship building, parents, we do not have this figured out. We are learning too. So as we're trying to like rear our kids, raise our kids, and listen to our kids more intentionally, like some of these tips and tools, I encourage you to try out. So yeah, you have just experienced Latasha and Dondre on the Count the Cost podcast. Be looking for her. She got a new space too. You want
We
to tell them
do.
where you
We
at? Yeah,
do.
go ahead and give
We
your
have a
plug.
new space now. We're located on 28th Street. We are excited. It's bigger because our capacity is continuously growing. And one last thing, parents, realize that each of your children are different and you may not be able to have the same approach for every child.